everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Talking Tuong, the weekly quarantine show where I get to talk to my friends near and far to talk about the movies that they want to talk about. Sometimes we do video games. We've never done comic books. Every week I'm like, we do comic books. Never done a comic book yet, although one day someone's going to take me up on this offer. But today I'm talking to a very special guest that, I haven't seen in a freaking hot minute. I don't even know when the last time I've seen your face, but it is a very glorious face, which I miss very dearly. I'm talking about Kelley Oliver, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. And Kelly's waving. This is a video chat, but this is a podcast, so they can't see
everybody.
that. And he's waving again. Kelley, I have to explain to you, a podcast is an audio format. They only can listen to you. They can't see you.
Thanks for the clarification. I might do more waving during the show.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'll have to just explain it to people. Kelley, how are you?
I'm doing well. Overall, obviously with the pandemic, things are as good as they can be for whoever individual it is. But for me personally, I'm doing okay.
Yeah,
I would say so.
Kelley, This is the first time you've ever been on a Pod Cavern show. So it is very exciting for me to have you here. I've been thinking about you when at night and then the morning, and I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh my God, Kelley. So it's just like you've inceptioned me somehow. And it was like a disease where I needed to have you on the show to cure me because I was just like, if I don't have Kelley on the show, he's going to haunt me for the rest of my days.
That is something that I do to people. I do haunt them always.
Wow. So are you like friends with Freddy Krueger? Like, how does that work?
Actually, you know what? Surprisingly, I am not a horror movie person.
Yeah.
So
this will be an interesting.
Yeah. Freddy Krueger is not I remember seeing, pieces of it when I was like being babysat when I was like 5 years old or something, and it freaked me out because I saw like the slashing of the stomachs and stuff, and and as a 5-year-old you're not supposed to see that,
Yeah, that's oof. It would scar you as a child for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was afraid of the dark for a long time thereafter. Yeah.
And you still are.
Depends on the situation and context.
Yeah.
If it's a creepy dark basement, yes. If it is my apartment, only mildly,
even though it's your apartment.
It's my apartment. Yeah.
And you've set up, and I can see your apartment here. You've set up like laser traps, Indiana Jones traps. It's
pretty much Home Alone in here.
Yeah, and you are home alone too. So the only one avoiding your own traps is you, right? So
also, but those crazy people lurking in the dark as well.
Right.
You never know, Tom.
You never know. You never know in Ottawa. That's for sure. Well, Kelley, I'm so happy you're here on the show here today. It's so nice to see you, but people don't even know who you are. They don't even know who you are. This is your first time being in the Pod Cavern.
It is. Yeah.
So do you want to explain, what you're all about and who is Kelley? What is the mind behind Kelley?
Oh man, we can go way back.
Yeah.
We can even turn this into a therapy session. But
I don't know if you knew this, but that's what Talking Tuong is. Yeah, I charge. At the end of this episode, I'm sending you a bill.
You just talked about the last time that we saw each other. I believe it was actually at the Ottawa Improv Festival about 2 years ago, 2019. I think that was the last time I saw you. Yeah.
2 years ago? Are you kidding me?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No one really saw many people last year in general.
What?
So
wow.
Yeah. It's probably about 2 years ago now that was when I last saw you. But just speaking about that, I've met you through the improv community here in Ottawa. Mm-hmm. And personally, when it comes to the arts, I play saxophone, tenor saxophone.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. It's something I've been doing since high school. I play in 2 community bands here in Ottawa, although both of them are kind of on hiatus right now. and I really actually do miss playing in those bands. And then in the acting side of things, I've done some short films here in Ottawa, done a commercial. One short film actually made it to the CBC short film Face Off. So that aired nationally, which was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. And
did your family be like, that's our boy, there he is on the big screen?
It was more for the commercial that I did, the PSA commercial about protecting your data from zombies. Okay. I was actually running away from zombies in this commercial.
Why would zombies want your data? Like, what are they gonna do with it?
It was during the height of Walking Dead, mania, and all that kind of stuff, and that's when that commercial kind of came out.
Right.
But yeah, like people were like messaging me. It's like, I saw your commercial. It was like someone from Vancouver, you know. It was like, what? That was really cool. That was a lot of fun.
That's so cool.
But like on the acting side, mainly improv, sketch comedy right now. Been doing some, like during this pandemic, one of the things I have been doing was taking some sketch writing classes, and through the Assembly, which is based out of Toronto, and then another separate class with Rich Tallarico as well. He was a writer on SNL, Mad TV, and oh my goodness, I'm forgetting. Key and Peele.
Oh, wow. Big creds.
Yeah.
Big creds.
He's a really nice guy.
I just can't wait for Kelley when you get to that stage. You know, you're going to, people start listing your creds. They're going to be like, okay, Key and Peele, Jimmy Fallon. Oh, you know that zombie data commercial.
That zombie data commercial. Filmed here in Ottawa. Woo!
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then lastly, actually, a year ago, I was I still am on temporary layoff from my main job, which was with. Can I do a plug here? Bose Brewing Company.
Wow. Yeah. You can do that. I love Bose.
Yeah.
Can you get them to sponsor the show somehow? They can just pay me in beer.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure something could be arranged eventually. But I mean, with the pandemic and everything, bars being closed.
I mean, I'll drink it
for everybody.
I'll drink it during the show. I mean, it's not like we've established podcasting is audio only, but I'm a big gulper.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can arrange something then. I'll link you to the Bose people. How about that? Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But it's been a year since I've been laid off because I was doing I was an event coordinator for them for Eastern Ontario, and really there's no events happening.
Of course, that's
yeah, but one thing that it has actually let me explore was doing film set work. So working on film sets, helping out the art department as a set dresser. So I've been doing that for quite a few films here in Ottawa. It's been really interesting, a lot of heavy lifting. It gets me out of the apartment, which is very important actually for during this time. When COVID was starting, I was just indoors all the time, not really doing much. But this at least gets me out, gets me physically active, and it's a little artistic as well, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Cool. I have a couple questions on that. Sure. Actually. We talk a lot about movies on Talking Tongue and stuff like that. It was making movies or being part of the movie process ever something that you always wanted to do?
It's weird because I don't think so. I was always a big fan of movies. It used to be my escapism as a kid. Watched certain movies over and over and over again. And then my first job during high school was working at a movie theater. So I had access to free movies the entire time I was working there, and that was awesome.
That's awesome.
Although I ended up seeing Wild Wild West 3 times in the theater.
Wow.
don't ask why. Honestly, like it was a perfect storm of like helping people out to see the movie and stuff. And oh man. Anyway. That was a lot.
Right. Yeah. Remember movie theaters, everyone? Wow.
Oh yeah, movie theaters. Yeah.
But being on set and stuff, I have a little bit of experience on that. I also come from a somewhat of a film background, and then I went independent for a while because for me myself, I really I was always in the mindset of like, oh, maybe I want to be an actor one day. Well, I can't really be an actor because I want to be able to film myself, because I don't see a lot of people like myself on the big screen. So someone has to film for me. I'll do the filming part of it. And then my mind went to, oh, maybe I'll just help with film sets and stuff like that. That's how I get my foot through the door and climb that ladder. And I was part of a couple projects, and it's an interesting thing. There's a little Simpsons gag about this, but it's kind of like, Bart in the show goes up to like one of Krusty the Clown's workers. He's like, wow, you work in television? You must be the happiest person in the world. And that guy is just like, I want to kill myself. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm not going to go that far, but I remember being on set, and I was doing, I can't say it because I signed it like an NDA years ago and I don't want to get in trouble, but I was part of like a really big reality TV show thing. Let's just say there was a race, maybe an amazing one. and who knows what it is. But I remember like being there for 12 hours, and I did like so little that day. and those days to go, like, it's just like they hire a lot of people and you're needed at the exact moment. There's a lot of standing around. And just being part of just that, and like other productions where I was just kind of standing around, it was kind of like just really dry and boring, waiting for something to happen. And I couldn't do it anymore. I guess it's really just to say that the whole vision of what film is a lot different when you're actually working it. So that's really interesting because you're actually working it.
Yeah, it is very different working it versus watching it on a completed film on screen. Like 2 minutes of on screen time could take 13 hours to film.
Yep.
And so in that 2 minutes, every shot that this shot, if you have a wide shot, a close up, a two shot where there's two actors in that shot, they all have different lighting setups. Usually they all have different camera angles. They all have different camera lenses, which means a lot of things have to get moved and positioned and placed. And then when it comes to set decorating, you have to make sure that all the stuff in that frame, that shot frame, is as it should be. Sometimes you have to move things to make it appear closer or fill a gap or whatever. And all this stuff takes time. And yeah, you have a crew of maybe 50, 60, depending on the size of the production, obviously, more working, running around trying to get things done, or you could be waiting on something like special effects to, in my case, like I do winter Christmas movies here in Ottawa. That's Ottawa's known as bread and butter is Christmas movies, and they shoot them year round. So special effects comes in and makes fake snow and puts it down on lawns and other things, you know, and that takes time for them to be able to do that. And so you might be waiting around for them to get their stuff done. But at the end of the day, you get this nice framed shot of exactly what the director is looking for.
Right.
And it lasts maybe 10 seconds on screen for 5 hours of work, you know, like 60 people.
Good for you. I mean, it has to be done, right? Like there's a reason why these shots and movies and stuff look good, is because the people behind it put a lot of work into it. But I just remember just like those long days is the things I was just like, I can't do it.
Well, I mean, in an ideal world, and for me, for film, ideally, I would want to be, moving and doing something at all times. Like I don't want to be waiting around, stuck around doing nothing. It's that's like probably the hardest thing, is having that happen on set. Because there you're thinking about, is there anything you can get ahead on? Because usually like film is really a go kind of thing, or go and then wait. Go wait, you know. But usually when you're waiting, you're thinking, is there anything I can get ahead on right now, so I don't have to worry about it later or anything?
Right.
And to me, for like an ideal day is, first ideal day is getting to go home early. Second ideal day is just constantly getting stuff done and getting things prepped for the next shot or the next day, or wrapping something that was already shot, you know. Like all of that is kind of what at least keeps me going on a film set
Cool.
when I'm doing it. But there's some departments where, yeah, you are not doing much when things are going on. And
Yeah.
and
Well, I
that's
think it
just the
kind of
nature of it.
goes to the and this is true anywhere, but I found it especially true in film where it's kind of like, yeah, when you start in film, you put in the work, you climb that ladder. You are kind of like a peon worker, not doing too much to the beginning. And if you stick with it long enough, I've seen a lot of my friends who started at the bottom, truly Drake style, and now they're at the top. Like they put in all of those hours, and now they're making those bigger decisions and stuff. I kind of goes to my laziness of like, I don't want to do this for like a year before I get to do a thing. But yeah, it's just a fascinating thing. We don't have a lot of people who come on the show and work on film in this way. So that I really want to pick your brain on that. Film aside though, Kelley, you know, of course, working, getting that moolah makes you happy. But what else makes you happy during the pandemic?
One thing that's actually been really nice, as I mentioned, I play music, and while we can't necessarily assemble in big groups like we normally do, my concert bands have 50 to 60 people in them. We have been doing kind of like smaller ensembles, and now that spring is coming around, planning on doing that again. So
Cool.
Sax trio with some of the two other sax players from the Canada concert band. And then there's also a friend of mine who is named Adrian. He has the Ottawa Woodwind Project, and he was like, Kelley, I needed someone to play bass clarinet. Can you come and play? And I'm like, I don't know how to play bass clarinet. And he was like, oh, it's fine, you'll learn it. And I'm like, okay. So this is a small ensemble that we rehearse in someone's driveway, all socially distanced and everything. And it's been nice to play, like just to make music and play, and that actually does make me very happy.
That's awesome. Did you were you part of jazz band and stuff like that in high school?
Yes, I was actually. Yeah. So I was in the jazz band in high school, the concert band in high school as well, and that's really where I learned how to play my instrument. And even then, like, I am not at a professional level when it comes to my saxophone. I can't just like go boop 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 bop bop boop 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 bop. Like I can't do that improv on a saxophone and stuff. I'm a music reader, classically trained, kind of a saxophone player. So but yeah, I mainly learned through that kind of program in high school.
That's funny that you say that. I'm a drummer, or I was back in the day. It feels like a lifetime ago. I started in like grade 7 and I went to like grade 12. So like good 5 years, 6 years. And I played a little bit afterwards. And I was trained to read music, and I'm a very like anxious person, but when I like to follow the rules, and especially back in the day, I hated to mess up. And a very core thing about drumming is you kind of get to do some improv, and you're like, well, Tuong, you do improv now. It's like, I was a different person back then. Like the idea that I had to do like a fill, like a drum fill where you're like, like terrified me. Cause like on the sheet music for drums, there's like, you're given exactly what you got to read. And then a lot of the times they'll say drum fill, which they don't tell you what to do for the drum fill. It's just like, hey, do whatever you want. And for me, I'm just like, I don't know. It's all to say that like back in the day when I was in high school band, I didn't make it to jazz band because a big part of jazz band is they expect you to do some fills and do some improv and stuff. And I'm like, I only know how to read sheet music. Please don't make me. And I got cut. So that's
no,
it's fine.
Cut.
I got cut. It's fine.
No.
The other guy that was a drummer in my grade, who I was at one point better at, like in grade 7, I was like, I'm better than you. He was better than me at the end of the day. So I'm admitting that live on the show. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, like for me, I have massive anxiety when it comes to doing any kind of solo performance on a saxophone. Or actually any instrument. I started on piano when I was a kid and played it through high school, and then moved to saxophone in high school, kind of thing, through the school program. But like, in the jazz band, we had solos, but they were written in, and we didn't have to improvise on the solos. We could improvise if we wanted to. And I was like, nope, I'm reading this music. But like, I mean, anytime you had a solo, you had to like stand up or do whatever, you know, and I still have it now where I get my hands. I mean, I'm starting to get like, you know, clammy hands just thinking about it. And yeah, it's a lot of like, for me, it is something that gives me anxiety when it comes down to that kind of stuff. So I understand where you're coming from.
We work on that anxiety together. It's a perfectly normal thing to get nervous. Everybody out there, whoever's trying to start the bass clarinet, is that what you're learning right now?
Bass clarinet, yeah. Oof. Bass clarinet, and then he put me on the contra alto clarinet, which is an even bigger bass clarinet, and it like
never even heard of it.
Shakes my bones, like it's so low.
Well, you know what? I'm very happy that you're able to at least get together with a group of people and, you know, perform a passion that is basically shut down, you know, the idea of people spitting into a woodwind but now at least you get to do it distanced and stuff. Like for me, I was just like, how is Kelley doing that? Before you described it, I was like, well, Kelley must be wearing a face shield, and then the bass clarinet goes through the face shield, but then you cover it with more masks. That's ridiculous.
No, we literally, it's someone's driveway, and we play pretty much like as far apart as possible so we can still hear each other, but also be safe. And I mean, you bring your not paper clips, but your clothespins and stuff, and pin down your music. If it's windy, it's windy, you know?
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's great.
It's pretty, it's good. It's good. I mean, like, and honestly, playing outdoors like that is much lower risk than
of course
indoors and stuff.
Yeah. No angry neighbors have yelled at you yet for playing?
No angry neighbors have yelled or called bylaw on us yet. And also we do watch the numbers for social gathering outside as well to see whether or not we're at a certain limit or not, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I guess like if you ever had to make a run for it, it'd be very funny from bylaws. Just everyone's packing up their instruments and their stands, and they're like, "Oh my god!" And like the sheet music flies in the cops' faces and stuff like that. That'd be really fun. All right, Kelley, we're going to talk about some news of the week, but of course on Talking Tongue, we don't talk about real news. We talk about pop culture headlines that I'm reading for the first time on IGN, that they did all the work and I'm just reading it. So, Kelley, here we go. All right, so the first news headline that I have here is, let's see here. Do you know a man got arrested after a literal Pokemon card heist? There you go. A 28-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly using a rope to descend into a Japanese store and stealing Pokemon cards and cash.
What?
Right? How does that make you feel?
I mean, I've heard that Pokemon cards can be very valuable. But descending from a rope to steal a card, I mean, like how much value are there in Pokemon cards? Is it like in the thousands and thousands of dollars, or is it like in the hundreds of dollars?
I don't know. I feel like they must because, you know, when I was younger, Pokemon cards were worth a lot of money, like Charizard, and I'm sure that is worth still a lot of money, probably even more money now. But it's baffling to me that like 25, 30, I don't even know how old Pokemon cards are now, but like it's crazy that they're worth still so much money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like who's playing them?
I mean, there's still a massive Pokemon following, especially with Pokemon Go.
Right.
That's a big deal. Still.
Surprisingly too, right? Because you can't go anywhere, but I have heard you can just they kind of cheat it now a little bit, right? Like
I've actually never played the game, but I do. People on set actually play the game quite often. I'm just like, it's like then they talk about their Bulbasaur or their Charizard or their, I don't know. I am not a Pokemon person. I'm saying this right now. Wow. First Pokemon movie came out, I was working at the movie theater and I'm like, what is Pokemon?
Who hurt you? You've never been a Pokemon fan? Wow.
No, I've never seen any Pokemon anything. I just know that there's the Pikachu, there's the Ash, there's the Ash, there's a Charizard, there's a Bulbasaur, there's that's all I know actually. I don't know if there's anyone. Is there a Chortle or something?
Can you say that again?
Squirtle.
Squirtle. Wow, you really aren't a Pokemon fan. That's don't say that in public. Yeah.
But I do. I just said it on an international broadcast right now. Podcast. But the thing about it is that if to me, that's like a jewelry store type of story. You descend down into a jewelry store and steal all the diamonds and stuff. But I'm like, Pokemon cards, are they really worth that much? To put that much effort into stealing them?
Apparently they're worth enough. So there you go.
To me that's just the.
Now,
maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I'm getting old, but I'm like, that's to me the same thing as someone dropping down into a comic book store and stealing a whole bunch of comics.
Okay, so that's your equivalent then.
That's my equivalent in my mind.
If you were to go and do a felony, now this is recorded, like I said, so this is going to be submitted as evidence when you do.
Theoretically,
if you had to steal from not a bank, because that's boring.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be a comic book store?
No, it wouldn't. I'm just saying, to me, I would say a comic book value and Pokemon card values to me are pretty equivalent in my mind. But if theoretically, I was to maybe borrow something and then resell it. Funnily enough, the first thing that comes to mind is a music store. I don't know why.
I was just going to say, a
top of the line Selmer. I'm like, oh my God, those things are worth $17,000, $20,000. I mean, one of those, and they play so good. I tested one out when I was shopping for my saxophone, and I was like, this is amazing. And then when I asked what the price was, I was like, take it back. I don't want to break it.
Wow. I was just going to say, I could just picture you coming down on a rope and stealing but you're a bad thief. Let's just be honest here. So you're stealing reeds and guitar picks.
They're so expensive too. So yeah, those are good. That's a good theft. Pocket some reeds.
And then you leave a calling card, which is just one of your reeds, but used.
It'd be all chipped up, sure.
Chipped up, exactly. Wow. All right, what else do we have here? What else do we have in the news? We have, so March 31st passed, and the reason and the significance of this is last year, officially now, was Super Mario, his 35th birthday. And because of his 35th birthday, a lot of limited time content came out that year, including Super Mario 3D All-Stars, where they packaged a bunch of Super Mario 64 Sunshine and Galaxy into one game. They made this something called Super Mario 35, where it's a battle royale type of game, but you're playing classic Mario against other people. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is it was a limited time release. Nintendo did something kind of Nintendo-y, which was hey, you can get these two things up until March 31st. And then we're taking it off our digital store, trying to replicate this limited edition, limited time thing. So March 31st is officially called the day Mario died. I checked on my Switch today. You cannot buy those items anymore or interact with those anymore. What does that make you feel to take a thing that is digital off a store from people like that?
It's a lot of things these days are digital when it comes to collecting, either through online games, those was it DLC, those digital downloads and stuff that you have to pay extra for. And there is a collecting culture when it comes to digital assets now. And we're not even talking about NFTs, which is a whole other. Oh my goodness.
We're not talking about that. Yes.
So, but to me, I would say I worked in marketing when I was with Bose. I was in the marketing department, and creating a false sense of something is limited and whatnot always increases sales, I would say, in the sense of that people want to line up to get it right away because they'll be maybe the only ones to have something.
And they don't want to miss that window too.
Exactly.
Like me, like I bought into it. I'm like, fucking Nintendo. And I'm like, take my $80, you bastards.
Yeah. And see, it works.
It works. Yeah. I'm pissed it worked, but it
yeah. And you know what? Like it's almost like I remember the Disney Vault, when I don't know if they still have the Vault anymore with Disney Plus, but like when they only used to release their videos again after a certain amount of time. I think it was like 15 or 20 years where they would release like these old films on VHS back in the day, you know? And again, that created that limitation of, this is the only time I'm going to be able to get this. I better buy it now, or else I might not be alive to get it again.
Yeah.
You know,
so like you understand the process. Maybe you're not happy about it, but you're like, exactly. It makes sense because deep down, Kelley, not only are you a thief, but you're a scheming marketing overlord.
Yep, that's me.
Okay.
Scheming marketing overlord.
You know what? I find that so despicable, Kelley. And on a different note, if you can somehow use that energy for the Pod Cavern so we can sell out somehow, that'd be really nice.
I'll let you know my rates after the show.
Okay, great. All right, what else do we have here?
This is a Charizard card.
One Charizard. I you know what? For you, I feel like I can give you anything that remotely looks like a Pokemon, like probably a Digimon, and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's a Charizard.
Yeah,
right. This is an interesting thing. Netflix purchases Knives Out sequels for $450 million. This is number 2 and 3, which I didn't even know they were making a 3.
Well, I knew that. I heard about Netflix buying the Knives Out sequels, and I find it weird. It's like, what does it mean by buying the sequels? Like, are they actually producing them, or are they just buying the distribution rights for them, you know?
I would assume that Knives Out 2 and 3 will be a Netflix original movie, like slapped with that, you know what I mean? So
yeah, they slapped that on a lot of stuff that's already been produced though. It just means that they're exclusive. They have the exclusive rights to air it. Pretty much.
Like when The Irishman came out, like that was like a Netflix movie, and then like it was distributed later to like theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah, so they funded that one. I know that for sure. So I'm assuming they're funding Knives Out 2 and 3 for $450 million, which it seems it. Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot. I was going to say that's not a lot.
It's because the reason why I was thinking like it's not that much, but then I'm like thinking about Knives Out. It is not a CG heavy film with a lot of like explosions and like other things like that, which usually eats up a lot of budget. But the thing that eats up a lot of budget in these movies are the cast, because they have all-star casts. And so when I'm thinking about it, then I mean, like, given the level of cast they have in these, I think that the actual cost that they're getting is actually not that crazy, to be honest. Wow. Yeah, because they're getting a lot of like A-list cast usually for those.
Well, I'd be curious of, like, this is just for the rights to produce it and stuff. They actually then have to put the money into paying the actors and doing all the production afterwards.
So this was not just like how much they're budgeting for those films.
I think it's just buying the rights to it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well if that's the case, then I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's like
that's a lot of money if that's
Knives Out got a huge like recognition when it came out. Deservingly so. It was a fantastic film, but it's like I feel as though Netflix has been chasing for a little while now, and that's especially true with like The Irishman when they had Scorsese do that movie, and it's just they want that Oscar so bad.
I mean, okay, yeah, I understand the Oscar thing.
They just want to be like, we are a legit movie studio as well. Now give us the Oscar.
I mean, like, I understand the want for that. The thing that appeals to me for Netflix is original content, and because it's a streaming service, you want more original content, and I actually don't care where it comes from. I've been watching a lot of Korean stuff on Netflix. I've been watching German stuff on Netflix. I've been watching even like a lot of Chinese, although some of the Chinese dramas are a little pedantic.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, but yes.
But and I actually enjoy the fact that it is bringing a lot more international content to my living room. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I even watched this Russian detective show called The Sniffer, and I stopped watching it because it was just really anyway, that's a whole other thing. After a while, it had too many cliches and too many tropes in it that I was like, I can't continue with this anymore. It's a bit too much. But what was really cool was just seeing how, like, what Russian entertainment is like, and how their culture is represented in their entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
And I find that fascinating, you know, and it's kind of like, it's almost like, you know, what National Geographic used to be, whereas like you get to see a part of the world you never get to see, you know, kind of thing. But now this is way more from a cultural entertainment perspective, and it's so easily accessible now. It's like traveling, but not traveling, but at the same time getting cultural insight at the same time. And to me, that brings the world closer together rather than brings it further apart.
I love that. I do think it's like really neat to see films from different countries altogether, because you're right, that they have such a different take on things that we do in like Western society and culture. Like even like Train to Busan, like a very famous I think it's Korean, and I'm losing my mind here. Is it Korean? Anyways, doesn't matter.
It is Korean. Busan's in Korea.
Yeah. So right. So like with that film, it's like the Korean take of a zombie film. And when I watched that, I was like, holy shit, like this is like such a, because like we've seen so many freaking zombie films in the past, like in Western culture, especially with Walking Dead, like it's just so popularized. You're like, how many ways can you do a zombie film now? And then seeing it from a different country who like have a different take on it, it's just such a refreshing thing to see. So I do recommend people to check it out. I know a lot of people out there are like, I don't want to read subtitles. And to that I say,
oh yeah,
like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, the people who don't like subtitles, I'm like, you get used to it after a while. It's kind of one of those things where you just power through it. And then after a while, you're just used to it.
I default watching a lot of things by subtitle all the time, even though it's in English. I'm just like, because sometimes when you have a voice actor trying like an accent, or sometimes they're like quiet, I can't understand what they're saying. Or the worst is when a character says something that you're like, what did they say? And it turns out to be like a word that is just specific to that universe. And you know what I mean? So they would say like a planet, and I'm like, what are they saying? And I wouldn't know. It's something that I wouldn't know what it is unless there was a subtitle on the screen.
There was actually an anime that I was watching, Black Clover, I think it was. There's a character in there that whispers, and I'm like, I know he's saying words. I don't know what those words are. I turned on my subtitles. It was an English dub already. I turned on my subtitles, and then I was like, oh, that's what he's saying. Just so I could get the words of what he was saying.
Yeah, it's a word of a lesson for everyone. Subtitles are good. Last news story that I have before we get into our movie of the week, of course, we have to talk about this movie, is, listen, Kelley, you may know this from me, maybe you don't, but people of Talking Tongue, they do know this of me. I'm a huge Space Jam guy. Love Space Jam. Just it's just one of those movies that some people say it's a bad movie, Tongue, and I say you're wrong. It's a perfect movie. It's a stupid fun time. I don't care if Michael Jordan's acting is bad. What were you? I don't want it to be good. But anyways, Space Jam, A New Legacy. LeBron James. A new trailer dropped. Did you see this trailer?
I have never seen Space Jam.
That's okay. That's okay. Let me fill you in.
I did not watch the trailer. I saw it on my pop up on YouTube there, and I was like, nah.
All right, time to pitch. Time to pitch.
Okay.
LeBron James.
I'm waiting.
Okay. Actually, there is something interesting about this trailer. Even if you've never seen Space Jam before, they are doing like okay, so the original Space Jam, and just quickly, Michael Jordan gets recruited by the Looney Tunes to play a basketball game against these monsters that steal the talent from the NBA. Okay, and they have to play a basketball game, which is just stupid and fun, and they win, and they get the talent back to those players that got their talent stolen. Okay, they save the day. Michael Jordan is the best, and then Space Jam 2 or Space Jam A New Legacy has LeBron James. And I didn't really know what this movie is about, but apparently it's something to do with like a captured daughter, it looks like. And they need to hire LeBron to face off against other basketball players, or not real basketball players, like fictional, whatever the bad guy team is, to save the day. And they have the Looney Tunes again playing basketball to save the daughter. The interesting thing about this trailer was that it's doing a thing like how, let's say, Ready Player One. This is the thing that's been kind of circulating. And have you seen Ready Player One before?
I've seen Ready Player One, yes.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Ready Player One is just like basically like a crossover of all video game pop culture entities. Like in the final battle, you see like the Iron Giant, you see like Overwatch characters, and I do you see the Ninja Turtles? I don't know, but a bunch of people, like pop culture icons, appear at the final battle to save the day. In Space Jam: A New Legacy, they take a bunch of WB characters and put them in the audience. So you see the Iron Giant, cool. You see there's references to Game of Thrones in Space Jam, which is very strange. That's not a thing in the original movie. You see, and this is the dicey one, you see a Clockwork Orange characters as part of the audience of Space Jam in the basketball game. Anyways, so they're making Space Jam bigger by doing crossovers with other properties.
You know what's interesting though, because I mean, like way back in the days of Clockwork Orange and maybe the 70s and 80s, like just in general, there was a lot more independent studios, and a lot of these got eaten up by the Warner Brothers, the Foxes, the Sonys and stuff. So, and the Disney, we were now all of these properties are now owned by these big companies, so they can just use them in whatever way that they want. So, which I find fascinating, because now, like, something like Space Jam having access to Clockwork Orange,
like, it's like all WB properties. It's very strange.
Yeah, that's fascinating actually. And I think, and maybe that's there to because it usually that would be that's targeted towards kids, Space Jam.
Yep.
But this keeps the adults entertained too, of seeing these other Easter eggs in there that they would recognize.
It is super weird, and you're right. It is fascinating. I don't know why Clockwork Orange characters would even be in there to cheer on LeBron James, because they're bad people. In Clockwork Orange, they are not good people. They should be arrested. Not watching a basketball game, you know what I mean? So anyways, who would you want to see in Space Jam 3, even though you've never seen Space Jam 1 and 2?
Space Jam 3. Like to be the
LeBron.
The LeBron?
But they don't have to be a basketball player.
Oh, I know. I'm thinking. I would love, honestly, I think it would be amazing if Shaq was the guy, even though he doesn't play anymore or anything like that. I think it would just be hilarious, having Shaq as like the Space Jam guy.
I'll take that. Shaq would be, that's actually a really good pick. I would take that.
Yeah.
I was just like, who would I pick? Someone who's not a basketball player, probably. I would pick like Wayne Gretzky or something like
Wayne Gretzky.
But he has to play basketball, so he's really bad at it. And the entire movie, he's just like, can we play hockey instead? And they're like, no, Wayne. I think that's an interesting wrinkle to Space Jam 3. All right. Kelley, we've been talking enough. We have to talk about the movie of the week. You chose it. Do you want to set it up for the people?
So I wanted to choose, I'm going to say this right now. Yep. I wanted to choose The Naked Gun as our weekly movie, but Tuong, you said you saw that very recently. And I was like, oh, well then no, let's try something different then. And it took me a while to choose even just The Naked Gun. And I don't know how my mind came upon. I think I was just driving and I was like, I haven't seen The Silence of the Lambs yet.
Oh, he's a monster. Pure psychopath. So rare to capture one alive.
So close to the way you're going to catch him. Do you realize that? Oh, Clarice, your problem is you need to get more fun out of life.
You told me you don't spook easily.
You call this easy, sir?
Lester's missing hand arm.
Man's a raving maniac. Who knows what he'll do?
And so, and I knew it was on Netflix. And I'm like, let's do The Silence of the Lambs, you know? And then I pitched it to you and you're like, what? Naked Gun to Silence of the Lambs?
It is one of the most hard rights, just like, okay, Kelly's mine. He chose Naked Gun, fantastic film. Obviously, he's in a big comedy kind of mindset right now. And what better comedy to have as the second option than The Silence of the Lambs?
But, I mean, like, I always wanted to see it, and this is again on me. I haven't seen it before, and it came out in the early 90s, 90 or 91 or so.
Yeah,
and
91.
At the time, I was probably too young to watch it, and just never got around to watching it. Although I know all the references that are from it and everything, and actually, I didn't even really know the plot of it. I thought I knew the plot, but yeah, I didn't really know the plot of the movie. Until
Isn't that interesting? Because and I'm going to reveal this too. This is part of why we agreed on. Well, I would choose any movie that Kelley wanted to watch, but he was extra intrigued because I also have never seen it. It's just one of those movies, like you said, like it's just been dancing around film pop culture forever, and you know things about it. You know Anthony Hopkins is in it. You know people revere this series. There's like a television series based on Hannibal Lecter, and it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen this movie before, and when you pitched it, I was just like, of course. We have to watch this movie. We both have never seen this, and we love movies. And
I want to apologize to all the podcasters out there, flabbergasted that two movie buffs have not seen The Silence of the Lambs until now.
It's true. I'm sorry, but now we've seen it. Not enough lambs. That's my review.
Yeah, there was a serious lack of lambs in this movie.
All right, how do we begin? So I guess. You want to just go through like the basic plot of the movie, and then we can dive deep into spoilers and our thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So, so the movie is about an FBI trainee, which I didn't even realize until watching it, which is Jodie Foster's character, getting kind of conscripted to interview Hannibal Lecter. Really just to get inside the mind of Hannibal Lecter to understand some of his stuff, because he's not really talking to his psychiatrist or other people that are interviewing him and stuff. And so the FBI thought that she would be the type of person that Hannibal Lecter would open up to, because I guess she is his type of person.
Right.
And it wasn't really I don't know if they insinuated that that's the type of person he likes to eat, or
it's very strange. And I was just about to do the hello Clarice, and
that was good. Okay, we can stop now.
That snake thingy that he does. And just to pause on that before we continue with the plot here is that I always do a quote from the movie as part of my show notes. And I was just like, it's going to be hello, Clarice. And I read into this a little bit more because I'm like, when does he say that? And you think he would say it when he first meets her, right? And there is a Mandela effect that is going on with this quote, which is the unusual phenomenon where a large group of people remember a thing, and that is the thing that is remembered instead of what actually happened. And a big example of that is Luke, I am your father. That was never the quote in Star Wars. And in Silence of the Lambs, hello, Clarice is that. And he never actually says that.
Like, I'm trying to think now. Like, I thought that was a line.
Me too.
Like, when did he say that? I can't picture when he actually says hello, Clarice. And I thought it could have been on the phone, at the end of the movie kind of thing. But spoiler.
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's a big spoiler there. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting. And a little fun fact, while before we get back to your summary here, is I'm obsessed with doing this right now.
Okay, please don't.
Okay.
Stop.
I've been practicing it. One of the things that I learned when I was taking acting classes, especially at the Auto Acting Company a few years ago, one of the things that I learned was just the I forget the term of it, but it's essentially when you embody an animal to portray, and you can, that's how you portray your human character, is that you tap into what this animal would move and feel like. Mm-hmm. So Kramer is like in Seinfeld, he's like a Labrador dog, and Chris Pratt is also plays like a dog-like character, like golden retriever like in Parks and Rec. It's just like that type of energy. But the famous thing is Hannibal Lecter plays a snake, and that's how he tapped into this like very calm character he's a psychopath, and he slithers, but you can see it in his eyes, right? He has a very snake-like creature that when you set him off, he like strikes. And I think that's such a brilliant freaking choice in this movie.
Honestly, man, Sir Anthony, like I was watching this in amazement at his acting in this. Like, it was so good. Like, it was so good.
So good. And that's why I want to be like him. So I'm starting with this snake little sound effect, which apparently was improv. It was like he just added that in.
Oh, well, I believe it. I mean, like, it doesn't sound like in the script it's like make weird noise with mouth. Like, I don't think that'd be in the script. But yeah, I love the thing about his character and the thing about his acting that stood out most to me was his stillness in portraying this psychopath. It wasn't like a Joker type psychopath, which, could be not easily done, but that could have been the way that he went with this. It wasn't a weird, a psychopath that would be on the fringes of society, if that makes any sense either.
Sure. Yeah.
Where they'd be like a social outcast. It wasn't like that either. It was just like this highly, you could tell, like highly educated, highly intelligent, loves to play games,
very calculated type of man. And you see that when Jodie Foster's character visits him for the first time. She is kind of confronted by your stereotypical, let's say, psychopaths who are like screaming nonsense at her while she's passing by. One of them just like jerks off into her face, which is disgusting. And then you get to the end, who they say is the psychopath, right? And it's Hannibal Lecter, where he's just standing very straight, and then he goes, well, he doesn't say hello, Clarice, but I'm going to say that. He's just like, hello, Clarice, how are you today? And he's very, very calm and very calculating. It's just eerie. It's creepy.
Well, the thing about that calmness and stillness is that it immediately transmits danger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it immediately transmits danger that you don't know what this guy is about. You can feel all the hair on your arm sticking up just by him standing there looking at you. You know what I mean? Oh, it's so good. It was so good.
It's so good. Yeah. Let's just say that. Did you like the movie?
I like the movie. Yes, it is dated though. I am gonna say that.
Yeah, well, it's the 1991, but yes.
I know.
Which aspect did you feel that was dated?
Two things. One of the main things that was dated for me was the lack of cell phones.
Oh my god, it's a 90s movie, Kelly.
I know. No, it killed me. As soon as so there's a point where Jodie Foster is like on her own doing investigations and stuff like that, and you know that she's gonna be in a bad spot, and it's that kind of horror movie trope of like, oh no, she's gonna need help, but she can't do anything or whatever. And my mind just went like, call on your cell phone for back. Oh, wait a second. there are no cell phones. Oh man, what do people in the 90s do anymore? You know, like what do they do?
Okay, so that's one part that seems perfectly reasonable for a movie set in the 90s. What was the other part that was dated for you?
The other part that was dated, and I really wanted to bring this up, was the portrayal of a person going through an identity problem, you know, where they.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And there was things there that were like seemed like, oh, this person's a bit more risque, where they have like a nipple piercing and stuff. I'm like, why? That's not a big deal, like anymore and stuff. You know, but that might have been more freakish back then. And
you know, you bring up a good point. I almost forgot about that large part of the movie, who is actually the antagonist of this movie. Really, is there is I guess it's Buffalo Bill, right? That's the character.
Yes, that's the name of the character.
So he ends up being a transvestite. That's a thing that they reveal in the movie, and there is that scene where he's getting his nipples pierced, and like I'm skipping ahead, and we'll kind of jump back in a little bit of like he is like getting large women to skin them to make clothing and stuff out of them, and he doesn't have any of his male private parts anymore, and like they toe a lot. It's not as offensive as a lot of 90s movies can be, I think. Like it's not like completely trans people are bad, but there is an element of like, oh well, this really paints trans people in a bad light, I guess, you know, like not to say there can't be bad people that are like that, but it something about it was just like, oh, I don't know, like in today's world in 2021, I feel like there's a more elegant way to portray this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than like he's bad because he's trans, you know?
Well, yeah, it was like, you know, they focused on the women's clothing. They focused on, he's different by having a nipple piercing, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like the guy was a psycho. And so I'm not condoning any of that stuff. But I just feel like that's could be part of some injury that's done to the trans community through that character, you know? And just the fact that, and they do mention in it that in the movie that what did they say? They had like, there's like one line that kind of like, before you even see him, that just kind of said like, almost like that not all trans people are like this or whatever, or anything like that. It was almost a line like that, but it was so fleeting that to me, compared to the amount that they put in afterwards on how crazy this person was.
Actually, that's pretty, in the 90s, that's pretty progressive, even to include a line like
that. I know. And I was thinking about that too, that it is pretty progressive for them to put a line in. But I mean, it's at the same time, it's still fleeting. So maybe for people who haven't seen it, just note that's right. Something that this movie it is dated in that sense. I can definitely subscribe to that datedness. The cell phone thing is Kelley, I'm not sure, like there's just no cell phones in the 90s, really. I grew up in the 90s, so I know there was no cell phone. The problem is though is that I forgot that there's no cell phones. I'm like, what did people do back then? I don't remember. You know? So we have Clarice. She visits Anthony Hopkins' character Hannibal Lecter, and you bring it, keep going from there. What else happens? Oh my goodness. You don't have to do a full recap of the movie, just like the highlights of it. I would say like the coolest thing about it was, well, Hannibal Lecter, he's a psychologist, or psychiatrist. I don't know which one it was, but, or psychotherapist. One of those psycho something. Psycho for sure. And he's in jail already because he was caught for being a cannibal already. And really they are trying to catch Buffalo Bill. So the FBI, her manager, I can't remember the guy's name, sent her in just interview Hannibal Lecter, get inside his psyche. She thinks it's for the Buffalo Bill case, but they won't say that it is or isn't for it. And Hannibal starts opening up to her, and starts actually, I would say toying with her really more than anything else. but also seems willing to help her because there's this weird respect that Hannibal has for her.
Yeah, he gets to learn more about her because like his thing is like, yeah, I'll talk if you tell me a bit about yourself. Because
Exactly.
I think that's just a thing that he likes, is like he likes to toy with people, right?
And that was one of the rules. So like there's some certain rules of engagement when it comes to Hannibal Lecter that the psychiatrist that's managing Hannibal gave her, was not to give any personal information or details to Hannibal.
Right.
But she breaks that rule because that's
instantly
the only way. Yeah, I know. And that was something I wrote down is like, oh, they put these rules in so that they can be broken.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
That's really what the movie's all about, pretty much. And so she breaks the rules and she tells her about herself and stuff like that. And he kind of, I don't want to say he gets off on it, but he really enjoys knowing more.
Yeah, he definitely he kind of gets off on it, like not in a sexual way. That's just like in like a mentally stimulating way, because that's just who he is.
I also think it's a power thing too, because like it's like the more he knows about her, the more he can control her, kind of thing. And but then at the same time, she's getting what she wants out of it, which is more information about Buffalo Bill. Right. But yeah, so Buffalo Bill goes on his killing spree, getting plus size women, skinning them, and then trying to sew a bodysuit out of them.
Yep. There's some gnarly stuff that happens in this movie. Like you see some you see some gross stuff. That's for sure.
Yeah. And funniest thing, there's a point where one of the bodies that is recovered from the water has a chrysalis lodged in its throat. And then Clarice takes it to some entomologist to study it, and they go a close up on the chrysalis and they cut open the chrysalis. It starts oozing out. And to me, that was the most disgusting thing.
Yeah.
Whole movie was them cutting into the chrysalis.
So maybe this will make you feel a little bit better about it, because a little fun fact here is that moth cocoon that Buffalo Bill places in people's throats and stuff like that apparently was made of a combination of Tootsie Rolls and gummy bears. So
really?
Yeah.
It did not look like a Tootsie Roll or a gummy bear.
They did a good job. It's a little less gross, but yes, the idea is kind of lol.
Yeah, it was pretty gross.
Yeah.
And yeah, so and the chrysalis was the transformation thing that the Buffalo Bill character wants to go through. He was actually rejected from 3 different hospitals that do gender reassignment surgery, and that's how they kind of track him down, is through that some of those facts. And I'm trying to think of where I am now, but like pretty much there's some false leads that happen in it. Eventually they try and not blackmail, they try and offer Hannibal
like freedom of like, or
not
like
really
like
freedom,
not freedom, but like
jail,
a better confinement, like
a better confinement at another facility.
Like there's a window and he can walk on a beach like once.
And they said the governor endorsed it and everything, and really the governor did not endorse it at all. And Hannibal finds out that all the stuff they were promising him was a lie.
But he's kind of into it too. Like he's just like, well played, Clarice.
Okay, your Hannibal is freaking me out.
It's not the last time you'll hear it. So
oh man. And the thing is that the governor's daughter actually gets kidnapped by Buffalo Bill, and so the governor finds out that her name was used to offer a deal to Hannibal when she never authorized anything. So she takes matters into her own hands to try and find her daughter, and gets him transferred to another location, pretty much. And that's where all hell breaks loose.
That scene though, where Buffalo Bill like asks for help from the governor's daughter and then like gets her to like move stuff. Was it the governor's daughter? Maybe it was it might have been someone else that he murders. And he gets that person to
that was her.
Move so move like the couch or whatever it is
into the van,
and then he like punches her like repeatedly and then closes the door. I'm like, this is too real. Like I feel like that could actually probably does happen. like that. And I'm just like, I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing it happen. You're like, why are you going into the van? Don't go into the van.
Yeah, but in like real life, like if you're a nice enough person, you might do that. And it's like, fuck. Like that's so. Ooh.
I mean, you got to think about it. How did you get the sofa out of the van in the first place?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good question.
So anyway, but yeah, then she ends up in a well in this guy's basement, pretty much, or cellar, and it rubs the lotion on the skin. And I didn't know where that was from, but that's where that's from.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, of course, this is like a freaking, I don't know, like a landmark movie. Like there's a lot of references in here that I'm like, oh, it's from this.
Yeah.
Or like things that I've seen spoof like Silence of the Lambs, but I've never actually seen it. And now I've watched it. I'm like, oh, this makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, exactly. So he wanted the Buffalo Bill wanted, I can't remember the daughter's name, but like wanted his captive to put lotion on skin so that her skin would stay soft and supple, you know. And he always said it rubs the lotion on the skin as an instruction to her, and she was like, what? It rubs the lotion on the skin, you know. And yeah, it was disturbing.
Very much so. Yeah, apparently his inspiration, Buffalo Bill, he's a combination of 3 real life killers. We have Ted Bundy, Gary Heidnik, and a scary movie celebrity, Ed Gein. So they're just it's interesting.
Okay.
Just a combination of 3 crazies, I guess. Yeah, it's a good performance. It's very eerie the way the guy plays Buffalo Bill.
Yeah. I mean, like it was a very good performance. Still not as strong as Sir Anthony Hopkins' performance.
Of course not. That's just like
that was. Oh, one thing I wanted to say. Clarice was pretty much Dana Scully. Like all I could see was Dana Scully in this situation the entire time I'm watching this. I'm like, she looks like she has the same hairstyle as Dana Scully, the same mannerisms as Dana Scully. I'm like, maybe Dana Scully was based off of Clarice, you know, which one came first, you know?
Yeah, I see the overlap there. Yeah, Clarice, she's pretty good. Like she's a pretty good protagonist, all things considering. I think like she's a pretty strong female lead, and not I don't know, she just the things that I hate in this movie too is there's a lot of creeps that just hit on her for whatever reason. There's a lot of like even like the creepy psychiatrist that takes care of Hannibal Lecter. He's just instantly just like, what are you doing tonight? Do you want to go out? And then like one of the science people who examined the cocoon thing, they hit on her too, and I'm like, all right, guys, like it's just.
But that came up though. So Hannibal made a comment on that, and I can't remember the comment he made, but pretty much there was a line that he said which commented about the fact that people just. I don't know if it was just treating her as an object or whatever, and people just hit on her or whatever, but something along those lines. And I think a lot of that was set up for that line that he delivers later on.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you know there's a point in the movie where they're looking at a body? Did they do cocaine to look at the body? There's like white stuff on their nose. Like, what is that?
This is a fun story that Kelley Oliver has, actually.
Okay.
So back in university, it was probably either first year or second year, probably first year university, I was riding the 95. So in Ottawa, there's an infamous bus route called the 95. It runs cross city, and that's what I took to go home. I was sitting down on this bus, and in front of us was another person, and I was just talking about death and stuff like that. And as we were talking about death and dying and bodies and stuff like that, the guy in front of us turns around and was like, you know, I work for the coroner. Actually, I'm for the coroner's office of the city. And I'm like, you do? and we just asked him a whole bunch of questions. And one of the things that he talked about was having to retrieve floaters, which was one of the things in like waterborne bodies that have been in the water for a long time. Usually they get really puffed up from getting waterlogged. They smell horrible. God. And they kind of like, they aren't very stable. They can disintegrate and stuff like that. because it's just all the flesh is just like water filled. Which you notice in the movie too. It's actually kind of a bloated body, the one that they look at. But the stuff that they put under the nose is like this menthol eucalyptus stuff to reduce the smelling of the corpse. Much.
My God, that makes so much more sense. Because when I watched the movie, I'm just like, are they all doing cocaine?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, I asked him about that. What was the smells? He's like, oh yeah, we use this like stuff under our noses to whatever. It's like he talked about one place where he went. There was some old person who wasn't found for like 3 or 4 weeks. This neighbor started smelling something, and then when they went in, they put the stuff under their nose and went into the
that is the worst sounding job in the world.
Probably pays well.
Pays well. Imagine it doesn't. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. So that's what that stuff is. It's this to help with suppressing other smells.
Right. So yeah, the movie kind of, and we'll just blast through the ending here. So the movie, you have Buffalo Bill. He has the governor's daughter in the basement, and then there's a side story that kind of branches out afterwards, which is Hannibal Lecter escaping from his new confinement, and he's antagonizing all of the upper brass and stuff like that, and he ends up getting out by like stealing a pen, and he can undo his handcuffs, and then he very hilariously, I thought this was a funny shot because it's the 90s, like biting out the tongue of the jail keep. And I didn't, the way it was filmed, I'm like, everything else looks really, really good, but this looks a little hokey.
That looked hokey. That did look hokey.
Yeah, and he's like biting out the tongue of like a jail person, and anyways, it's a whole really bloody and really creepy scene that continues to play out where he escapes. Everyone's trying to get after him. He hangs one of the bodies up like a crucifixion type of thing. He leaves one person alive, even though they don't have their tongue. He ends up pretending he's one of the dead people and is wearing like the skin of someone's face to escape. It's a whole thing.
So the person he leaves alive is actually him. So that was him in the officer's uniform.
Yep.
With the thing on. And that's how he escaped, is that they thought it was
right. You're right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was like an amazing sequence to show how twisted Hannibal is.
Yeah.
And I guess,
there was one thing that distracted me though, and this is a movie thing, and it's just a production thing. They use a smoke machine in that room, and I'm like, there was no reason to have smoke in that room. And yet, as soon as Hannibal escapes, the whole room is filled with this hazy smokiness to provide an atmosphere.
Yeah, that is really silly.
And I was like, oh, look at that. They use a smoke machine.
But the atmosphere was good.
Yeah.
And yeah, kind of like there's a little bit more with Hannibal Lecter antagonizing the actual governor and all this stuff too, which is like brilliant and all this stuff. But he does end up escaping ultimately. And then the real story ends up being, Jodie Foster going one-on-one with Buffalo Bill eventually, and then ultimately taking him down in a really kind of funny way, because Buffalo Bill has like a night vision thing on his head, and could totally get the jump on her. And as soon as she shoots him, you realize the room's not very dark, so you didn't need it on.
Oh no! So the thing was, there's a few things about this whole basement scene that I want to talk about.
Okay, yes.
One is, how big is this freaking basement?
It's huge.
There's a well. There's like a butterfly room. There's a dress room where he dresses up in the costumes and stuff like that and whatnot. There's another empty room. There's like, this place is a complex, and yet there's a small house on top of it. I don't understand the basement. I'm just saying that right now. I do not understand the layout of the basement.
Right.
The other thing is, I really dislike that trope of the two people shooting at the same time, and of course one of them gets their gun off or whatever, or that thing.
Yeah,
it's a 90s thing. I know it's a 90s movie. I know, but man, oh man,
it's just silly because he sees her, she doesn't see him.
Yeah,
and he like reaches out his hand to like brush her hair.
Yeah,
and I'm like, dude, like.
But he doesn't even touch her. He doesn't touch her. He just
doesn't touch her, and
he moves it back again.
It's like you got her, man. Like you could just kill her right now if you wanted to.
And my other thing was that I know that Clarice is a trainee, but she was way more freaked out than I expected her to be in that scenario.
Right.
As an FBI agent going under training and stuff, because she did a lot of those. It seemed like in the beginning of the movie they show her doing a lot of training.
Yep.
So I was surprised a little bit about how panicked she was in there.
I guess. I mean, that's a hard one because it's like this is her first real case. It's one of those people you're like you're top of the class as she's always pitched to be, and then later as she in the movie she gets like more sloppy, and then towards the end you can see like all of the stuff that's been going on like mentally with her kind of gets to her. So I can see a situation where she's just like starting to lose all of the training that she has to deal with this guy, especially because it's a very sudden. She didn't think she'd be in this situation.
Yeah,
right?
She did not expect to be in that situation, which is why a cell phone would have been great in that situation.
Totally. And then like the last thing is like she wins the shootout, and eventually Hannibal Lecter calls her and he says like, well, Clarice, I'm going to have dinner with an old friend. And
no, I'm going to have an old friend for dinner.
That's right. That's it. That's the line. It's very important because he's going to eat the other guy.
The psychiatrist that was managing him in the old jail. Yeah.
Good. That guy's a dick. So
yeah, I know. I was like, as soon as I heard that line and I saw who he was talking about, I was like, oh man. And the problem is that Hannibal, unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, fortunately for this movie, but unfortunately, I guess for my own personal biases, he's a character that you actually kind of root for, which is not a good thing.
Yeah. Well, it's more that you're like, but there's something about him. What if we can change him? What if we can change him? No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the scene of him like attacking the guards at the other place and how brutal and ruthless he was just kind of goes to show that really he is what he is. And and you really can't change him. But you do know that at least it's implied that he was pretty much tortured in that other jail,
right,
by that psychiatrist. And like treated like a lab rat and stuff. So there is some kind of vindication that you get from him saying he wants to have an old friend for dinner at the end of the movie.
Exactly. Even though he's a bad person, but like I really like this movie, and I just I don't know. I'm really happy I saw it because I've truly have never seen any of the other Silence of the Lamb properties and movies. Like we have Manhunter, which was in 1986, and this was before Silence of the Lambs. Then we have Silence of the Lambs. Then we have Hannibal. Then we have Red Dragon, Hannibal Rising, Hannibal the TV series, and now there's a new one called Clarice, the TV series, which follows 1 year after the events of Silence of the Lambs. Like I said, like this movie blew up. And then they're like, let's fucking milk this cow.
Yeah. I didn't even realize there was that much. I forgot there were sequels to Silence of the Lambs, like Hannibal, Red Dragon, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, now what stories are these ones following, Well,
the books apparently. But I will say, just quickly going through all these other movies and the Rotten Tomato scores of all of them, it truly looks like all of them are shit. Except for I remember a lot of people liked Hannibal the show, but the other ones are like 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, all this other stuff. And we have different characters playing Clarice at all times. It's not always Jodie Foster. Like in the sequel, we have Julianne Moore who plays Clarice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's just it's all over the place.
I mean, is it Anthony Hopkins again?
Yep, Anthony Hopkins. Although he does, I think, bow out eventually in Hannibal Rising, which is like the prequel to all of it and whatever.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, this movie got a ton of awards, and that's why they milked it, is because it won Best Picture in 1990, or I guess 1992. It
was well edited. It was really good. I mean, like I watched it and I was like, this is such a good movie. And honestly, Anthony Hopkins sold the whole thing. Yeah. He stole the movie. Right.
So Best Picture, Best Actor in a Leading Role, Best Actress in a Leading Role. So that goes to Jodie Foster. Best Director, Jonathan Demme. And then Best Writing Screenplay based on a material previously produced or published by Ted Talley. And then it was nominated for Best Sound and Best Film Editing. So, and then it just won a bunch of other awards too. But in terms of Oscars, it won like 5 of them, which is a lot, right?
Yeah, should have watched this a long time ago.
You know what? We did it. And the thing is, like, I've watched this and I really like it. I'm not gonna watch the other ones. Like, I don't care for it.
Yeah, you know? That's the thing. Like, I really enjoyed this movie, and I'm worried that everything else would pale in comparison to this movie. Hannibal, the TV show, maybe it's also really good, but to me, it depends on the story it's telling. And I'm more interested, at least, and I don't know what these movies are about or what the TV show is. I'll look it up later to see whether or not any of these follow along these lines. But I'm interested in Hannibal being used again to find other serial killers. Like, to me, that's a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
And to see him try and manipulate other people to what he wants while that's happening, I think that's more that I like that, and I like how dynamics of that brings about.
Well, I was gonna say I had no idea this movie was not about Hannibal, to be honest. Like, I thought this was like a big Anthony Hopkins show, and it's apparently in this entire movie he only has 24 minutes of screen time, which is insane. Wow. But I thought this movie was all about like just catching Hannibal. I had no idea what this movie was about, but it turns out it's just like using a serial killer to find another serial killer, but that other serial killer is actually the main antagonist in this movie. You know, it's very interesting.
But really, man, is the Buffalo Bill the real antagonist? I feel
in
like
this
Hannibal
movie, in this movie.
I feel like Hannibal is, though.
Well, he pulls the strings and stuff, but it's totally like the climax of the movie is killing Buffalo Bill.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I will say, though, the Manhunter movie that was made first, 1986, does not have Anthony Hopkins, has someone else, Brian Cox, playing Hannibal Lecter. And this movie got some good reviews. So apparently this movie is good, and The Silence of the Lambs is good, and the TV series is good, but everything else is bad, including Clarice, the new TV show.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, yes, I'm very happy we watched this, Kelley. Before we wrap things up, how would you rate The Silence of the Lambs?
If I saw this in the 90s, I'd probably give it a 9.5 out of 10.
Wow. Okay.
Because it's so well done. Like, it really is well done for its time. And even the heightening of the emotions. I mean, the performance from Sir Anthony Hopkins, like, just like so much of it it's amazing. Yeah. Watching it today, because I have the context of the no cell phone-less 90s and all that kind of stuff, and the tropes that they actually really play upon in there. And because some of it is getting kind of dated, I still would give it like an 8 out of 10, because like it's as a movie, it's still really, really good. Like, it's such a good movie. I didn't even notice how much time went by when I watched it. Like,
I think that's a mark of a really good movie these days, because we have such low attention spans. So for me, anything over an hour and a half is like, oh God. And then this movie is like over 2 hours, I think, just really? Barely. I think
didn't even realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is. Let me just make sure. Yeah, 2 hours and 18 minutes. It's a long one. Yeah, and it doesn't. I did not even notice
that. I didn't feel that at all. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like, you're engaged in the story in this one, and you're invested in the characters. You're invested in Hannibal. I find you're invested in Hannibal even more so than Clarice in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed it, and I would say I give it an 8 out of 10.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Myself, I would give it 10 over 100. No, 10 out of 10. Hello, Clarice. Those are the Kelley's shaking his head. He hates that noise. Just hates it. I'm gonna send you that's gonna be your ringtone for me next time I give you a call.
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kelley, for making us watch this movie. Truly, it was a lot of fun, even though it was like pretty freaking creepy. But I'm glad we watched it. I can now check it off my movie nerd bucket list.
Exactly. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. So, do you have any plugs for the people at home?
The only thing, like, I've been really enjoying watching a British show. It's a panel show. I don't know if you know what panel shows are, but they're pretty much, they take comedians that are celebrities and they just do random shows. There's a lot of them in the UK. I don't know why. The closest thing that we have here to that is the Debaters on CBC Radio. That's pretty much a panel show. But Taskmaster. I am obsessed with Taskmaster. It's all on YouTube. There's 11 series of it on YouTube. And it is literally, they take a bunch of comedians and there's this Greg Davies is the Taskmaster. And they have this one house really that's the set for this show where all these activities happen and challenges happen, and so they
classic reality TV thing.
It's like reality TV, but it's hilarious, and it is like the points don't matter really that they get, like in the Debaters, like the points don't matter.
So it's like whose line is it anyways? The points don't matter.
Exactly, you know. And all that kind of stuff, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun to watch. And then you get thinking about, like, how would I have approached that task, you know? And the task could be something like, get this sand from bucket A to bucket B, but you can't touch the sand. You can't, you have to use these objects like a spoon, a straw, you know, whatever, these other like random objects, and just try and get it. Meanwhile, the sand is leaking from bucket A and you're trying to get as much sand as possible into bucket B. And that's a task, you know? And there's like different things like that. And it's a lot of fun. Cool. I definitely recommend people check it out. It's free. It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Cool.
That's my plug for this week.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kelley. For myself, you can find the rest of the shows at podcavern.com, www.podcavern.com. Check out all the shows in the Pod Cavern network. We also have t-shirts now. And I don't make any money if you buy a t-shirt, but we have them. If you want to just, I made it in such a way that I wanted to make it as cheap as possible for our audience. So I made it a nonprofit store. So if you want to show some love, buy a t-shirt. Why not? I don't make money, but you know what? Doesn't matter. It's not about the money. It's about the love. And if you want to show your Pod Cavern love, you know, put it on your body, put it on your pants. Pod Cavern thongs coming out soon. No, but someone did ask me that recently. And I'm like, can we do that on this website? One day. And that person was Kelley, by the way. So
I love a thong. I love a good thong.
I know you do. And if you could stop waving it in front of the camera right now, that'd be great. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Talking Tongue. Before we go, Kelley has a world famous catchphrase.
Yeah. My catchphrase is, that's all, folks.
I think that's copyrighted. Bye, everyone.